Right. Let's go to the NBA. The NBA trade deadline's coming up. There's not been much movement when it came to the standings, but we've got Dwight Howard, Josh Smith, who now says he wants out of Atlanta, and Rajon Rondo. Of those three big names, Joe, who do you see moving?
I see if any of them move, it'll be Josh. I don't know that I see Josh moving. I've seen a bunch. You got to add Pau Gasol back to the mix because he's been getting a lot of press lately as somebody else that the Lakers have got to move. And I again think that talk purely comes from the Lakers fans' realization that they're not that good.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if I think the Celtics would be nuts to trade Rondo. I can't figure that out. So I have a hard time thinking they're going to trade him. I think the time on Howard is past, and maybe I'll be proven wrong. But if there's one of those guys that gets traded, it's probably Josh. And I've said that someone should punch him in the face every time he takes a three. But he's about all we've got right now in terms of really exciting players. And if you're an Atlanta fan, you can't be happy about that. You cannot be happy if they trade him. If I was a betting man, I would bet none of the three go anywhere.
I still feel like a trade for Howard has to happen if you're Orlando. And if you're Otis Smith, you can't take the bet that he's wishy-washy that he wants to stay. Is get him out of there. Let's get some players in who we know who will be here next year. I've heard a rumor that Josh Smith for Kevin Garnett was offered, and the Hawks said no.
As well, they should say no. That's a terrible trade.
An expiring contract, and Kevin Garnett is a little long in the tooth. The other trade that I don't think makes sense is Rondo for Josh Smith, and you really don't want to trade a headache for a headache. Rondo, if he's not competing for a title, is going to hate Atlanta. The other trade I saw was on ESPN, and I'll see if I can pull it up real quick. It was...
By the way, if I'm a Hawk, I would take that trade. If I'm a Hawk and they offer me Rondo for Josh Smith, I will pull the trigger instantly.
I wouldn't mind pulling the trigger. The question is, how quickly can you build around Rondo and get all the necessary pieces? And I'm not sure if that works.
You're asking that question about the wrong franchise. That's not how the Hawks think. The Hawks don't think about building teams to win. The Hawks think about putting butts in seats. And Rondo has a ring. Rondo brings some name recognition to the Hawks that we're kind of lacking at the moment. If I were the Hawks franchise, I'd pull that trigger. And I think it makes more sense for us. I don't know why the Celtics would. I can't figure out why the Celtics would trade Rondo.
I was trying to find a trade, but it was essentially a three-way trade involving Indiana. Or it was like 5 trades that must happen or something. But no, I feel like Josh Smith they need to kind of say to Josh Smith, because the reason he's upset is because we did not push him for the All-Star game. They should go up to Josh Smith and say, we are going to build a team around you. We're sorry. At some point, the Atlanta Hawks...
He knows that's not true, though. They've already made the choice about who to build the team around.
That's not true.
When they signed the Joe Johnson contract, they made that decision. It's done.
I guarantee you Joe Johnson will not be on his team next year.
You guarantee me?
Guarantee.
What are you willing to put up for that?
You want to go to Bones?
Yeah, well, I don't know if I want to. You'd have to pay for something more expensive than that for me. But, look, where do you think he's going? New York?
Joe Johnson, I think they amnesty him before the next season. Every team, because of the new collective bargaining agreement, has the ability to amnesty a player who is currently on a roster of their choosing. And the Atlanta Hawks have not exercised that right. And the only person that makes financial sense is to amnesty Joe Johnson. If you amnesty him, his contract comes off the books instantly. You still have to pay him, and if you're the Hawks, that's what you get for signing him. But you do not have him on the books.
Yeah, you forget who owns us. Yeah, look, that move makes a ton of sense. They won't make it because they'll still have to pay him.
Now, the problem with it is, and I will say no, and this is why I will say no. The problem with it is that a lot of the NBA teams and teams like the Atlanta Hawks have enough in their reserve kind of like profit margins to be able to play an extra player this amount. But because of cap rules, you can only play like one player, or if you're Pat Riley and you're a genius, you find out a way to get 3. But they could still pay him out of the profit margins and remove him from the books and become more profitable. Listen, whatever you are willing to bet that is not more than four figures or 1,000 apples, or 500 apples, would say. I'm willing to bet you Joe Johnson.
All right, well, I'm going to have to take a look at this and decide whether or not I really want to bet. By the way, I've heard the Joe Johnson to the Knicks for Carmelo rumor, which
I've heard this rumor too, and this is weird to me because if you are the Atlanta Hawks and the phone rings and it's the people running the New York Knicks and says, "Listen, we're interested in trading Carmelo for hello." Yeah. Hi, yeah, what? You don't understand how fast we say yes.
Yeah.
We're looking to trade. You don't even say who he's being traded for. We're looking to trade Carmelo to you guys for Joe. Yep, signed, good deal.
Yeah, and I don't like Carmelo as a player, but I'd make that trade just because his contract's going to be easier to get rid of than Joe's. The argument of why the Knicks would want to do that is Joe Johnson was at his best during the time that D'Antoni was coaching him, but I don't think D'Antoni comes back. The Knicks are playing awful now that they're finally playing good competition. And Carmelo clearly destroys their offensive flow. So I maybe they'll try to do that. I don't know why. I just think D'Antoni's not. I think D'Antoni's going to be gone, and they don't want to look like they've got egg on their face for trading everything for Carmelo.
Here's the three-way trade that ESPN was talking about: Rajon Rondo, Brandon Bass to Indiana, Darren Collison and Josh Smith to Boston, Jermaine O'Neal and Roy Hibbert to the Atlanta Hawks. The assumption is that the Hawks adding Hibbert finally gives them a legit center, which allows Horford to go to power forward and gives them money under the cap for the team. Rondo goes to Indiana, which I'm sure he will hate.
Yeah.
But the Celtics get younger and get rid of a head case. They get Collinson, who's a good point guard. Josh Smith can come in, and you could have a starting five with Collison, Ray Allen, Chris Paul, Josh Smith, KG. But that's the rumor, or that's the trade that was floated out by ESPN. If you look at it from a ESPN draft machine perspective, the Hawks actually decreased their number of wins by 2. But this is the assumption of the Atlanta Hawks saying, we are done, we are out.
I guess. I have a hard time seeing any of those really complex trades going on. When's the last time something like that happened?
Lord only knows.
I mean,
I guess Carmelo.
Yeah.
Last year at the deadline, I was probably
Carmelo, which was the worst kept secret in the history of the NBA.
Agreed. But I think the thing is, if you look at the 4 players, Howard, Smith, Rondo, and Paul Gasol, I think if you were ranking them in terms of who's moving first, or ranking them in terms of likelihood of being moved, I'm going Gasol, Howard, Smith, and Rondo last, because you're not going to find a top 5 point guard in whoever you trade Rajon Rondo for.
I would agree with you, except I think Josh Smith is more likely to go than Howard. And the thing about Howard is, if he doesn't go anywhere and he becomes a free agent and he doesn't sign with Orlando, they got cap space. That's what they get.
You got cap space, but you got no team. So
you lose Howard, but you're going to lose him anyway. And instead of being restricted by where he's willing to go and sign a long-term contract, you've got cap space that you can spend. Now, I don't know if that helps you in terms of convincing people to come to Orlando and play, but they may have made the decision that is better than any of the trade offers they've gotten for Howard.
No, you might be right. I still feel you may have a valid point there, but gosh, I mean, whatever pieces I can get for him, I think I would get. Plus, I would still have the cap space. I don't know.